Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. We are going to talk about standards to optimize online payment experience today. I'm Jean Fong, the Authentication Product Manager at FIM. At FIM, we are focusing on payment industry. We offer customers strategy consulting, technical advisory, testing tools, and testing service to enable our customer launch their innovative solutions. We have over 450 employees worldwide. Our headquarters is based in France, and we have 9 laboratories across the world, which enable us to have a 360 degrees view globally with all the initiatives happening around the world. And today, we are going to see on online payment transactions, what are the considerations of the market? On one side, for merchants, we can see that merchants cares about user experience, user interface, and interoperability of their consumers to create a frictionless transaction experience. And then on the other side, the banks more cares about the user privacy, security, strong authentication, and fraud risk control, which to enable risk control with strong authentication, this will create some frictions. So how are we going to find a balance between one side to create a frictionless experience shopping experience for the user, and on the other side to have minimum authentication steps to cause the card abandonment and reduce fraud together. So let's see how a general transaction flow today. We start from a client. They in the front end side, they play a checkout to their merchant website, and everything happens afterwards. In the background, behind the scenes, there are authentication and transactions messages to the payment networks, and to check their messages and information with their cardholders issuing banks, and to have risk assessment, have a step up challenge flow in case needed if the issuing banks thinks the risk is requires additional information. So this is a general transaction flow we can see. In the front hand side, we try to minimize be frictionless, and on the back end side, there are several messages going on. So there are a few actors, main actors of standardization bodies trying to help improve this whole user experience with several compliances. Firstly, we look at EMVCo. They are collectively owned by American Express, Discover, JCB, MasterCard, UnionPay, and Visa. All the international major schemes, and they care about the secure payment transactions online and offline, also the interoperability within the payment ecosystem. And secondly, we can see from W3C World Wide Web Consortium, which they are the main technology leader for web technologies, and they have standards and guidelines for the industries to including 400 they have 400 members or above 400 members, including the major ones like Google, PayPal, Alibaba, Amazon, Microsoft, April, Worldwide, Ubiquiti, Netflix, and so on. And the third one, FIDO Alliance, they are established from 2012, more focusing on authentication experience, trying to remove password from the authentication use cases. The main members of FIDO Alliance are Google, Amazon, Intel, Thales, Apple, Microsoft, and Docomo. And within these three standardization bodies, they have collectively built this web payment security interest group. In this interest group, they try to collectively work together to align their standards, find a gap, and create a better experience. Their objective is to optimize the user experience of the e-commerce check payment and enhance security, reduce fraud, reduce the integration effort and cost, protect user privacy, and meet regulatory requirements. So we can see these three actors, and let's take a closer look of the standards they are working on. Starting from EMVCo, they have three standards more focused on this online payment experience. The first one is 3DS. You may know that in the past few years, the market has been migrating from 3DS1, the proprietary standard, to 3DS2, which is also known as EMV3DS. So the market is migrating, and the major schemes are mandating their members, the vendors, to migrate to EMVCo standard to have a more alignment across the payment networks and the whole payment industry. And this is focusing on the authentication experience, and EMVCo has a certification program for this 3DS specification. And the second one is SRC, Secure Remote Commerce. You may also know it as Click to Pay. This standard is trying to enhance the e-checkout experience to reduce frictions and abandonment. EMVCo has the specification released already. They are working on to develop a testing program around it. Third one is tokenization. This is a process to replace consumers' PAN, primary account number, with a unique payment token. This payment token has a restricted domain can be used in a restricted case to protect the consumer's original card information. And this one, there is no certification program along with this. And this, in the section B, we can see there is also a collective work happening between EMVCo and FIDO to carry FIDO's attestation message within this 3DS flow. Also, there is another collaboration between the three parties, EMVCo, FIDO, and W3C, called SPC API. The SPC stands for Secure Payment Confirmation. This API is targeting to introduce, to enhance the payment experience within 3DS and SRC flow, also considering the FIDO's authentication approach. And this is the discussion is ongoing within all the stakeholders to find a best practice. There is no testing program for the moment because it's still under discussion. And then we can look at FIDO Alliance. Their latest specification, FIDO 2, contains two parts. Web authentication is the standard developed by W3C to enable FIDO authentication in a browser. And then on the other hand, CTAP stands for Client to Authenticator Protocol. This is the way for FIDO authenticators to communicate the browser with the authenticator. It can be a built-in authenticator like a mobile device or in the desktop or another connected device via NFC, Bluetooth, or USB. And FIDO has this certification program depending on the product types. On the functional conformance and interoperability, FIDO has certification for FIDO client, FIDO server, and FIDO authenticator. On the other hand, they also have security level definition and requirement for the authenticators. Besides this, due to the popularity of biometric usage, FIDO also developed a biometric component certification program to help certified biometric component when they can be used in an authentication use case. Next one is web authentication developed by W3C. This is enable FIDO authentication in a browser usage to communicate between the browser and the users. The last one is final payment request API. This is the web browser capability for the merchant to request a payment or for the users to complete their checkout by stored data. These two standards are developed and managed by W3C. There is no certification program, but there is a self-test platform with all the results publicly available. And at FIM, we are a qualified lab and test tool provider for ENVCo 3DS specification. Also, we are a accredited lab for FIDO's biometric component certification program. So as a product provider, what you need to do is to understand what's happening on the market, what are the relationship between these standards, where they are, so that it can help you to smoothen your path when launching an innovative solutions. So let's look at in the transaction flow how these standards are placed within this standard transaction flow. Firstly, let's look at the 3DS for the authentication part. There are a few roles defined in the 3DS. I will go through them quickly. First one is 3DS server, which is located in the acquiring domain connected to the merchant server or the PSP to manage from the acquiring side of this 3DS flow. And the directory server managed with payment network providers to manage the messaging, transferring, and authentication. And ACS stands for Access Control Server, is the server connected to the issuer banks. So in the message flow, there will be a regular preparation message between the 3DS server and the DS to collect the latest card ranges on, for example, a daily or an hourly basis, so that when a client is placing a checkout order and then the authentication message happens. So it will pass through the 3DS server to the DS and the ACS, and the issuing bank will assess the risk level of this transaction and decide if it can complete the transaction or there is a challenge, a step up required to ask for extra information from the client. And then FIDO authentication process solutions can be introduced within this flow to enhance, for example, the risk assessment and to support the communications for the client to use a FIDO authenticator. And W3C's SPC standards is going to manage the communications between the browser and the users. And then the next one, we can look at the SRC flow. Also known as click to pay. The SRC, the difference between SRC and 3DS is SRC is managing the checkout flow, checkout experience, while 3DS is focusing on the authentication. So the 3DS methodology and technology can be embedded in this SRC experience. So for SRC, there are a few more actors defined by in this specification, starting from SRCI, SRC initiator. This is the part of the merchant website that calls the payment request. It can be a web page, it can be a payment application, or even a Play Store market space. Sorry, let me correct it. The SRCI is the merchant side to request a payment, and sorry, it's this is played by a PSP, a gateway acquirer, or a merchant. But the interface used by the client is called DPA, Digital Payment Application. The users can place their order through web page, mobile app, or the gaming marketplace. And the third role is SRC system, which is the managed by the payment scheme to facilitate the SRC flow. And SRCPI, participating issuer, is the issuer banks that participate in the SRC program. And DCF, Digital Card Facilitator, is the actor that manages all the cards for for specific client. For example, it can be a bank, it can be a scheme, it can be a wallet provider like PayPal or GiantPay. So how SRC flow looks like? The SRC flow starts from a checkout action. And when the clients start from a checkout, the DPA will will check their identity and collect the cards used by this enrolled by this client by displaying the partial of the card data and the card image for the client to select one of the card when they select the SRC payment method. Once they select the card, and then the checkout process proceeds. So this is the SRC flow, and also FIDO authentication can be used within this SRC flow to provide a better authentication experience. And also the SPC API defined by W3C will be managing the communication between the browser and the DPA. So after looking at the SRC and 3DS flow and all the standards, we can see there are many things happening behind the scene, which may create additional frictions to consumers. Let's take one example. The usage of FIDO authentication flow can be at several stages. Can be at the client when they log into the merchant website, can be used before collecting the identity card information, and also can be used at the challenge flow. So but within one transaction, there are multiple steps can be related to an authentication request. This can be improved to reduce the number of these steps so that the user experience will be better by providing a secured way. So these three FIDO, W3C and EMV core is this working collectively with also the industrial partners to and their members to find a best practice solution. So how we can make innovation possible together? We know there are multiple players and roles defined in this online payment transactions ecosystem, and we can see there are many technologies to align with and to check if there is any gap in between. There are cross-regions requirements to adapt in your country regulations, and how to select the best practice solutions, and then to ensure the end-to-end interoperability of your solutions. You need to work with a trusted partner and start to understand the market. So at FIM, how we can help our customers to be successful. We have consulting and testing services with our customer throughout their product development process. We start from define, design, and deliver to the test stage to walk through the whole process with our customers. And FIM has been working in the payment industry for over 20 years. We are accredited by all the major international and domestic payment networks. Also, we are engaging in all the standardizations we mentioned before. We are the member of EMVCo, W3C, and FIDO Alliance, while providing some of the compliance service and test solutions for some of the standards. And we work with customers throughout the ecosystems, from technology providers to payment networks, banks, merchant PSBs, and so on. And last, we also support tailored service approach. Depending on what type of solution you are and which stage you are at for the development process, we can help you to provide a tailored service according to your need. So thank you for your listening. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach us by the Swapcard chat, or you can send us the questions via emails or visit our virtual booth to talk to us and see how we can help you. Thank you.